Okay, so if you look at the minor pentatonic scales that I mapped out for you in the open position, you can see I've highlighted the root of the note in red, and I've shown you the minor third in purple. It's really important. A lot of people try to just memorize the neck and then they forget it. So if you get anything out of this at the beginning, you need to know where the root of the chord is and where the root is within the scale. So E chord, E, E, E. E pentatonic, E, E, E. It's the same note. And so you see the E chord, you see the E pentatonic, you know where the root is, you know where the minor thirds are. If you don't know all of this information, that's okay. We can get into theory stuff later. I've got a really good course for that you can check out. But just let's try to keep this as simple as possible and about basic concepts that get you going and learning how to improvise and utilize some of these techniques and see the neck a little more. So if we look at this intro, he goes like this. He starts with his third finger and he hits both strings and he slides up to the 5th fret. And then he hits both strings and slides down. Well, remember, we have that shape, and then we have this shape. So it makes a lot of sense. We're in the key of E. Having open E's ringing is always a cool, good idea because that is what is in the chord, and that's the key we're in. So he comes up with this lick based on moving from this open position pentatonic to this next pentatonic, right? Remember, it's just all pentatonic. He just knows where he's going because he sees that. He slides down. He goes to the 3rd string, 4 to 2. Well, remember, that's right out of that scale. So he's staying directly within the C minor pentatonic scale. He's just going from this position to this one. So both strings start at the 3rd fret, slide up. 5th fret, slide down. 4th fret, slide down. And he has this little hiccup he does where he hits this open string. And then he hits the strings open, which remember, that's in minor pentatonic, right? Those open strings. And then he hammers into that 1 and 2. Well, why would he do that? Well, that's your E chord. So we have this so far. So when he does that hammer, he's not going like what, a lot of us when we read tab, we get so stuck in the tab, we don't see the forest through the trees. But when he does this hammer, he's hammering the whole chord. And then he's right there. Open string, top 3 strings. E, E, E. And then he makes his move. And we'll talk about this stuff up here in a little bit. So the intro, we have this. You can do it with your 2nd finger, 3rd. Sometimes I don't do it consistently. Sometimes I start with my 2nd, but... So notice when I get up here, I bar with my 1st finger. And my 1st finger's already there. And then I hit this 9, and Hendrix loves this sound of, I call it sliding to nowhere. He doesn't stop at a pitch. He hits it, slides, relieves the pressure, and just lets it, and then he mutes. So let's play this intro. I'll play it for you a couple times. You can try it, and then we're going to try it with the track. So here we go. If you play the 5s, if you bar it, those 4s, you bar it, that's fine. I just happen to use my 3 and 4. Okay, now if you're looking at this, you realize he slides from 4 to 5. He's just sliding in to that note. Again, I don't want to get too crazy into the theory, but if you're like, hey man, you just told me these pentatonic scales are this and this and this and this, why is that 4 there? Well, he's sliding into the flatted 7th. So he's addressing, you can get into a note chromatically, which means starting a half step away. He goes a half step below the D and slides into it. And remember, those 5s are in the scale. These 2 4s, this is where I'm going to just throw this out there and you don't have to worry about it. But I didn't want to play it or demonstrate it and not explain it. This 4 is a C sharp note. C sharp comes from major pentatonic. E major is this. There's that C sharp. You can mix up major minor pentatonic. We're not going to talk about that right now because his solo, this intro, is predominantly all minor pentatonic except for that instance. But I want you to know what he's doing. So this C sharp comes from major pentatonic. It's really common to bring in this major 6th. If you want to be playing in minor, make it sound a little more happy, a little brighter. The move is to grab a 6th. Now this F sharp note, that's the 2nd or the 9th of E. E, F sharp, G. The 9th, Hendrix adds that a lot. And it's a way that you can add more color to your pentatonic scale. And it's a pretty safe note to add because it's in the major scale, it's in minor scales. So this 9th, the 2nd, so he's being Hendrix. He's going to do the minor pentatonic thing and then he's going to tweak it a little bit. So the main thing is, let's get the intro down. I want you to see E minor pentatonic in the open position in the 3rd fret, and I want you to see how he's utilizing moving through the scale, coming down it, and getting into that E chord. And then making a move, doing the hammer-on thing. So I'm doing that by barring, hammer, hit, bar, hammer, hit. So I'm not bouncing around. Okay, so now let's try it with the recording. Let's see what happens. You're going to get a 2 count, and then you'll hear the organ kind of playing the lick along with us. So that's just kind of a cue. You're going to get a 2 count beat, and then you got to get in. All right, here we go. All right, let's try it again. All right, now that time I forgot the little hiccup before the hammer E. And if you listen to the recording, it's kind of like this weird stumble. His rhythm is so great. So try to think of it as... It's like you're kind of falling into that E chord. And I'll make some weird body gestures during this. I do this for my students where I'll like over dramatize something so they get a sense of like how this should feel, because Hendrix is a really fluid, dynamic player, and he'll kind of push and pull with the beat. And he does that with his dynamics when he plays loud and he plays soft. So I'll probably make all kinds of weird faces and body language during this, but it's for your educational humor and benefit, I guess. Okay, we're going to try this a couple times, and then you'll have the backing track that you can play and work with on your own, and then you've got the recording too. Now, another thing I want you to experiment with is go ahead and play this really hard and then back it off and play it soft. So even though it's not really musical to just bash through this whole thing and play it hard, you should do that. And then you should play it as softly as you can, as quiet as you can. This is the dynamic thing I was talking about. You have to start working on this stuff now so you can figure out how to finesse it and work it in. So if you listen to the recording, he's not bashing like this. It's not crazy hard, but you should play it hard so you know how to go there. Notice how different my guitar sounds when I play like that and when I play like this. So when you're playing with tube amps, the harder you hit the amp, the more it distorts, and the more it compresses. And Hendrix was a master at controlling his dynamics and his volume and his sustain and the amount of compression and the distortion by how hard he plays and if he's sliding, hammering on, or pulling off. So the big misconception with Hendrix was he turned on a fuzz pedal and just went for it. That's not true at all. You can hear him manipulating. When you use a fuzz pedal, you can clean it up by rolling your volume down. And you can see him do it live. He'll have his volume down maybe like 4 to get a cleaner tone. I don't have a fuzz pedal on, but notice how much it cleans it up. So what he'll do, he might have his fuzz pedal on and be playing rhythm with his volume on 4 or 5 or something. And when it comes time to play a lick or a solo, he's going to roll up his volume. Maybe not all the way to 10 unless he wants the fuzz to be really crazy. But you're always kind of finessing volume. So he'll ride his volume knob. You'll see Derek Trucks do this all the time too. You're controlling your tone. So he'll ride his volume knob, but he also controls a lot with how hard he plays. So try playing this really softly. And then try starting softly, get a little louder, back off, get loud when you play that hammer-on lick. So you can really dress up your playing and get very musical by learning how to do stuff like that. So let's play this intro a couple times and we'll move on to the solo. Okay, now I'll kind of probably play with some different dynamics here. So that time I played much harder on the front end. I hammered the chord harder, the E chord, and I hit these harder. And then I backed off, and then I started playing harder, and I hit this pretty hard. Okay, now I'll play it a little differently. So that time I didn't hit the hammer-ons at the end as hard. Just play around with it like this. This is the biggest takeaway that I got when I was learning Hendrix. I would get so overwhelmed, and I suffer with perfectionism. But learning stuff like this helped me with all that, because he doesn't play the same thing the same way twice. Sometimes you're going to miss things. Sometimes you're going to flub it. That's fine. It's not a big deal, man. You just want to keep going, and you just want to be musical and keep moving. If you keep making the same mistake over and over, yeah, you want to address it. But I would get really hung up on something when I missed it, and I would just beat it to death, and I would drive myself crazy. And that's not a fun way to play, and it's not a fun way to make music. So take it easy on yourself. Remember, this is Jimi Hendrix. He was pretty good. So you're trying to do something that this master was doing. So you want to imitate him, copy his dynamics, copy his phrasing, but don't let any of this be the be all end all. Have fun with it. Don't get frustrated if you don't get it right away. Just keep working on it. Work on the dynamics, play it hard, play it soft, work on this technique stuff with the hammer-ons and the pull-offs, and you'll start to see that your hands will start to figure this stuff out. What you don't want to do is just bash through the tab and not listen to what you're doing and not try to make any of these little adjustments. All right, so let's look at the solo next.